Need something. Hello.
Good morning.
How's it going? Oh man. Yeah, we're just gonna wait a little bit for let people join and get on the stream and everything. So yeah. I guess we'll take suggestions on music for the future. That's another thing I don't really know how to do with Zoom calls. Ooh, Gant's coming. I bet he'll
Hi.
How's it going?
Hello.
Got a lot of stuff going on. While we wait we're just gonna wait a couple minutes, let people kind of come in. Is my screen showing up okay, resolution wise, stuff like that? I sort of changed the I changed the resolution on my monitor and the entire monitor because it's easier for me to share that way.
It looks beautiful. Your background, I just love. Calvin and Hobbes.
Yeah, I've always liked that one. So the same question, I guess, with oh god, virtual code. Get out of here. Same question, I guess, with the code. If it's big enough for people to see, we're not going to be doing like a lot of like code coding, but I wanted to make it at least readable because once I start rambling, it's hard for me to slow down.
It looks good for me.
Yeah, same here.
Do a little check. Awesome. Somehow messed up my Zoom settings, but I wanted to sort of yet again readable because once I I heard my voice and that was real weird.
It was me. I'm sorry. I pulled up the live stream so I could watch the chat.
Yeah, let's not confuse me. Dun, dun. Yeah, I don't know if we want to, how much we want to give.
Maybe like 2 more minutes, just 12:05, and then we'll get started.
I think that sounds good to me.
I have a question for the live stream. Is it just your desktop or participants as well? Are they is like this whole thing shown on the live stream?
The live stream is set to, I think it's just me. Well, yeah. No, I take that back. It's whoever is talking pops up. So it's not like the full gallery view. I suppose I could probably change that setting, but I'm not exactly sure. This is only our second live stream with Zoom and YouTube Live and stuff like that. But that is a good question. And yeah, so I'm sort of watching it now, 20 seconds delayed. But
there's a setting in Zoom that if people have their cameras off, it doesn't show them.
I'm just glad I don't look like I crawled out of a dumpster today.
I was afraid you were afraid like an employer would be watching you. I'm supposed to be in a meeting.
Well, this is active learning, I feel like. So everyone's I'll write people notes if they need, for work. I'm sure that'll go really far.
They want to know where you got your wallpaper.
Yeah, I have no idea. I could send it to you. It's been like I've had it in my just like it's moved from computer to computer since, I don't know, for like a long time. I have no idea where it came from originally. I have a couple different, like, I was actually meaning to go look because I have a couple different, seasons. I'm pretty sure I have a fall one and a winter one at least. That was kind of fun.
Okay. Ready to get started?
Sure.
Okay. Okay. Hello and welcome to the Virtual Coffee site walkthrough. If you are new to Virtual Coffee and you want to know more about us, you can find us at virtualcoffee.io. We have been doing these virtual coffee meetups since April of 2020. And we're really excited to talk today about where the site, how the site has changed, how it's grown, how the community has been involved in this, the growth of the site, and to take anybody's questions. So Dan is going to walk us through all the decisions that went into making this.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, so we had virtual coffee for the first however many months, had a sort of just a single pager, and we always, I mean, you know, planned on making a sort of a larger site, a more informative site. And then we, I don't know, it became like obvious that we could use the Hacktoberfest initiative that we put together to sort of provide a open source project for our members to contribute to while we worked on it. And so then all of a sudden we sort of had a deadline, but that was actually good because it got us to get moving and everything like that. So I basically said, well, I'll just do it. And then I just went ahead and I don't know, I sort of did it. It was, we did in Preptember, I guess you want to call it, the you know, while we were preparing for the Hacktoberfest, we created a sort of single-use site for our Hacktoberfest initiative to collect, do a little bit of information and collect some forum entries and stuff like that. And that was the first sort of, I don't know, web thing that I worked on for Virtual Coffee. And it came together okay. And I also use it to learn some new things. And so I for this site, I used some of the same technology, and I didn't use some of the stuff that I did not enjoy from the Hacktoberfest site, and sort of went forward from there. So we had some goals for the site. My personal goals were I wanted the site to be, I mean, there's a billion different ways to make websites. Our top goal was definitely to make it so that our members could contribute without too much hassle and without too much knowledge. And so that sort of ruled out a lot of different, more complicated solutions. And it ruled out obviously a lot of sort of online or CMS type things too, because we wanted, I mean, it didn't, you know, it didn't all the way rule them out, but to simplify it, you know, we wanted to make it easy to contribute to, easy to add content to through GitHub. And so that sort of like lined up some options. And then after that, it was a sort of technology decision. You know, we considered some React stuff. We considered, you know, Next or things like that. And the other thing that I wanted for this site, especially since our first version of it is going to be all informative, you know, like information based and not super interactive, anything like that, is that I wanted to get it to be perfectly accessible and fast and everything like that. And so I sort of I threw out any of the runtime based technologies like some React stuff and stuff like that, because of we didn't need the extra overhead, because we didn't have use for the sort of extra interaction elements that those sort of solutions, you know, give you, but at a cost of some, you know, speed issues, stuff like that. So I ended up with a technology called Eleventy, which is it's the package that builds our entire site, right? And so every time we do, our entire site is a static site, and so it pulls together some different information and runs some node scripts, basically, and then outputs flat HTML and CSS and I think a tiny bit of JavaScript. And so when a person is navigating our site, they're looking at pre-made HTML files that are generated a long time ago. They're generated, you know, this thing runs every day, but either way, the sort of traditional website is generated when you access it, right? So if you go to Facebook or something like that, I don't know about Facebook specifically, it used to be, but the site would talk to databases and do whatever, and then put together some HTML and show it to you. And what Eleventy and a lot of other static site generators do is put together all the stuff ahead of time and then just save it, because we're not changing the content based on who's looking. You know, we don't have like a login situation currently. We don't have a lot of stuff like that, and so we can just pre-generate all of the stuff. So Eleventy allows us to do that pretty easily. Eleventy is written, well, is created by a guy named Zach Leet, who is his main sort of concentration is performance and accessibility, and in this sort of realm, right? And so he ended up making this Eleventy, this static site generator, and it's really cool. So we used it for Hacktoberfest site, and I liked it, and it's not perfect, but it did do everything that we wanted it to, and so we sort of kind of kept going from there. I think I'm just going to go, I can dive deeper into each of these sections. I think I'm going to kind of go through an overview of each one, and then we'll kind of go in. So once we had settled on the, I don't know, should I ask for, I don't know, does anybody have any like sort of high level Eleventy questions? I promise I'm going to dive deeper into like how we're specifically using it, but at this point, let me pause for questions. I'm down to.
I've got the chats up, and I wanted to point out Mike Rogers said static sites for performance. In my opinion, 90% of sites don't need to be dynamic at the point of request. And I thought, it's great to make sure everyone saw that. But Lucia was interested in knowing kind of how you organize it. Was there a Trello board at the beginning?
Yeah, no, there was nothing. Right. So the like this site, the inception of this site was, our Hacktoberfest initiative, and we were sort of on a I don't know, we had a deadline and we had a limited amount of time to pull it off, and so because of that, the leadership team just kind of gave me permission to just do it without the Trello board and the sort of decision-making process that that normally we would prefer to use and are planning on using down the line. I was doing a lot of this late at night, especially leading up to October 1st. So there was no Trello board this time. We've been trying to use some GitHub project boards and stuff like that. We've been, for our open source stuff, we've been mostly just leaning on just issues and internal discussions. But the fact that it was really just me, like once we had the ideas together, it was just me implementing it, made it like sort of streamlined it. It also led to some decisions that I made, but that was what happened because of sort of the time crunch. It was just all in my brain sort of situation. Those were good questions. And yeah, Mike, I totally agree. 90% of the sites, at least, it's just like, and even sites that have sort of login areas, user specific stuff, you can generate a lot of it ahead of time, and then do things to pull in dynamic stuff, in little bits. So definitely that was, I really tried to resist the urge to sort of just make everything in React or something like that, which is easy these days, but the output is, I don't know, you still have to put a lot of work in to get to the sort of performance levels that I was hoping for. So if I'm gonna, I think, move on. So Eleventy lets us do some different, you can see here, they like sort of out of the box have all these different ways to build templates and things like that. The nice thing about it is you can just throw an HTML or a markdown file into the repository, and it will just generate a page for you without like any adjustments, and then you can just sort of power things up as you need. And so the next thing I sort of needed to decide was, I don't know, CSS libraries or whatever, design, all that stuff. I actually went with Bootstrap because I like it a lot. It gets a bad rep, and I don't think a lot of it is necessarily Bootstrap's fault. But the the Bootstrap can be used for good, and I feel like I make an effort to do that. There's a few different ways we can kind of go about. I don't know, go about optimizing the Bootstrap usage. We ended up using like in the past, I've used Sass or things like that to just pull in little pieces of Bootstrap. But I have actually gotten used to using the Purge CSS, and I dug into that with the Tailwind. Oh, it's actually the Hacktoberfest mini site, but I dug into that, and it actually works really well with Bootstrap too. So the things that I like about Bootstrap is that I can sort of I can very highly customize it by using their variables setups, and and so the output, like I only need to sort of change. I can use their variables and stuff like that, and only need to change things in little bits, and all of the rest of the classes will sort of pull them in, and then we can use Purge to make sure our CSS files stay tiny. I didn't use any sort of themes on top of Bootstrap or anything like that. So the rest of the design was sort of just me. I was trying to keep it, simple, mostly because I'm not good at design, but also, so that's like as much as my brain can handle. But simple also like lets us keep the, lets us keep the download size low, stuff like that. What we see here, I wish I had pulled up. I might be able to do it, but I wish I had pulled up the first version. But I found this these illustrations are from a site called Undraw, which I believe is here. Yeah, and this site is awesome. These are just like all these like just delightful illustrations, and you can sort of tweak the base color and just look at them while you're like browsing. They have like, I don't know how many illustrations, but a lot. And the license is totally like free to use and free to sort of, it's like the only thing I think their license disallows is sort of selling their illustrations. Yeah, it was really nice. I sort of found this and then started, I don't know, basing the rest of the design around that. I also used this pink color. I don't know. There was like some sort of like palette generator that I was like on at 2 a.m. or something, and found this pink color, and I lost I don't know where it was or what side it was on. But anyway, that sort of like, I don't know, the design kind of came from that, and then I don't know, and then we've made some changes after that. And then I don't know how long ago it was that Drew made this logo for us, but that was a week or two ago, something like that, and made this awesome like mug code logo, and we like loved it immediately, and so like just took it and threw it everywhere because it was amazing, and that sort of guided some additional sort of design updates and the nav bar and stuff like that. And then at that point I also used, so this font is called Inter, and I realize I don't have a tab open for that yet, but it is really nice font, and I actually, the Tailwind UI project uses it, but it's a variable font, which is the first time I've messed with any of those, and it is pretty cool. So a variable font means basically this like most traditional fonts, you download a entire font face file for each weight and also italics or not, and different variations, right? And so this one is just one font file, and then you can change the font weight and stuff like that, just like variably, instead of it well, this isn't going to be a big difference, but instead of it requiring a bunch of different font files, it's the font file itself contains the information to say, oh, if we're going to use 500 or whatever, make it this much thicker, which is cool. And also I just thought the inner looked look nice. So, okay, getting a little pop-up that says Meg is raising her hand. Meg.
Yeah. First off, that's what's super cool about the variable font. Like I'd never heard of that before. Actually, that's basically what my question's about. Like, is that, how new is that, I guess, to web design? And like, what's the file format, like dot whatever?
Mhm.
What's the extension, I guess?
Yeah. Yeah. It's pretty new, ish. Like it's coming out and the browser support. So, browser support for it has been increasing in bits, right? And so they're basically, what are we saying here? So like you can see sort of the rough like landscape. So there's going to be some browsers that don't support it. IE obviously has nothing. And you can write fallback, like you can write your CSS for it using fallbacks. And so Inter has like normal versions of, like Inter, you can't even just not use a variable font, for and still use Inter in the traditional way. I didn't do any of that on the virtual coffee site. It looks fine. The font stack is basically the Inter variable font, and then past that, it's just it's simply whatever your default font is on your system. But you can see in this on Can I Use, all of the browsers have little bits and pieces that well, not all of them, but a lot of them have little bits and pieces that they're missing. So there's a lot of kind of cool stuff that they can do, and some of those aren't available on all of the like the current browsers right now, but the main, like, certainly the features we're using, the main features like font weight and adjusting I forget what the italics, there's a word for what the variable is called that you use, but is available on most, like on all modern browsers these days.
Font style.
Yeah, so it's cool. And that was a change that I made along with the when we made the logo switch.
So basically, it's like the same kind of thing where you download the font. It just has that font dash variations like property.
So this is like some JavaScript stuff well, not JavaScript, but some browser stuff, right? But if you're going to use it on a website, you sort of just use it the same way, right? And like this is just like font family, right? So all the font families will have, and Inter has docs on all this stuff, but this is like the font family, sort of the same thing as normal, right? And yeah, you asked about what the file extension, the actual font file is, and I think it's let's see if we can get the whole file name here. But yeah, it's just like that. Yeah, that.
Okay.
ff2. I don't know.
It just has that .var in front of it.
Well, yeah, that's just because they have like a normal version and then a variable version, and they even have an advanced variable version that has some of those extra features that a lot of the browsers don't have.
That's
and
awesome.
it's obviously not the only variable font. There's a bunch that are on Google Fonts now. If you use Google Fonts, you can sort of browse by like only variable fonts, which is cool. And Inter's actually on Google Fonts too. I didn't want to use it because of Google and keeping my sort of, I don't know, network requests and stuff like that lower. But
you just opened a whole new world for me. Thank you, Dan.
Yeah, it's cool. Variable fonts are cool. And it was like, it's one of those things where it's just like, if this was a sort of client site with, that people were paying for and business stuff, I might think a little harder about just throwing it in, or like work harder at making the fallbacks, because the branding is important for paying customers and stuff. But for our site, I don't know. I was just kind of YOLOing it. So that's what happened. But yeah, variable fonts are cool. It's definitely a cool thing. And I feel like it's gotten now to the point where it's like safe to like try to use at least. Your mileage may vary, but yeah, so that's inter. What else was I talking about? Does anybody else have any sort of font related questions while my brain is still in variable font land? Yes, IE. I haven't checked recently, but IE will work. The site will work in IE. It just won't be as good looking. What else do I want to talk about? Yeah, so the next step was like we decided on Eleventy and we decided on some CSS stuff, and then I wanted to wire up the downside with Eleventy that some of these other some other systems have handled is dealing with assets, right? And so Eleventy doesn't have any built-in support really for asset handling. And when I say asset handling, what I mean is doing things like, for instance, we used Sass, like I was talking about that with Bootstrap. So we use Sass and we use some stuff like that. So that needs to be processed. And then we like to do some post processing on our CSS to pull the file size like way down. And that same sort of thing would happen with JavaScript if we were using any serious JavaScript. And then there's also some steps that we like to take. So if you looked at the source for this, for our site, and looked at any of the assets we're using, they all have this sort of hash in the file name, right? So this is our main style sheet. And in the source, it's just like main dot whatever, well, it's SCSS, but when we generate the built version for production, we have a step in our build process that takes the file and generates a unique hash for based on like the contents of the file. And we do this so that you'll hear like the phrase here is cache busting, right? So what that means is when a normal browser, when you're just browsing a site and it downloads a CSS file that's referenced, it'll try to save that file for a certain amount of time. And we basically tell it to save it forever. And then when we need to make updates, we generate a different hash here. And so the file name changes. And so the browser's like, well, that's a new file. So we'll go and grab the new one. But if we don't change that CSS file in the meantime, every time you go back, you don't have to re-download it. Your browser will hang on to it. So that was something we wanted for our build, and we wanted some other stuff. And so you might have noticed here, but I ended up using Grunt, which is a build manager that was, I meant to look at what the history of actual history is, but it is old and has been getting maybe like 2 updates a year for the last like 6 years or so, security related stuff. I used it because I've used it for a long time for one thing. And so I knew how to sort of deal with it. And I didn't have really the time, because of what I was saying before, I didn't have like a lot of time to figure out how to use something else, especially with my requirement of not having a JavaScript runtime, which was important to me in the moment. And a lot of the modern sort of build tools are based around the assumption that you're using React, or well, not React, but some sort of JavaScript. And the way you sort of kick everything off is inserting some JavaScript runtime and stuff like that. And I think there are modern solutions. I mean, I know there are modern solutions. I just didn't have time to tie them all together to get everything going that I wanted. So right now it's Grunt. One of the things I like about Grunt is that it is, this is probably just because I'm used to it, but it's sort of easy to see what's happening, what the steps are, even if like the internals are a little, I'm scrolling really fast. I'm going to find the steps here, but yes, Meg. Yeah, what's up?
Sorry, I have another question. What exactly is Grunt?
Yeah. That's a good question. So Grunt is a task runner, is what it really is. So this was before Webpack, like long before Webpack was a thing. So Grunt is a node-based task runner, and so what it does is you can like basically define some tasks and then line up, and then like line them up in the order you want per however you want to do it per command. and you can run terminal commands, and then there was a bunch of plugins and stuff like that. So there was, you know, a Sass one, like an whatever, JavaScript stuff, and you can see a lot of that here. And so there's also some stuff to automatically build those file hashes I was talking about, and things like that. And I was originally, so Eleventy has its own sort of runner command line setup, and I was having some trouble like getting it to work with my asset stuff. And so I ended up, instead of having Eleventy handle everything, I ended up having Grunt like build all my assets and then run Eleventy itself. So I never actually run the like Eleventy, you know, they have like a watcher and stuff like that. So what this does is, so the default is, all right, so here's a task, right? So this is register task. And so we're saying anytime I can just type grunt and then assets, and it'll run these, you know, tasks. And so we have Sass and we have post CSS. I don't know how deep I need to get into what specifically these do, but like that's the sort of like breakdown of what grunt is doing, right? And so this task is, well, this is the default task. So this is just if you type grunt, it runs assets, which is, you know, these, and then well, this is like a little thing. We wanted the code of conduct. I only want to have the code of conduct in one place, so it's just sort of copying it for us and then running Eleventy. And then our bigger sort of build. So start will do the default stuff, and then you know, put out some notices and stuff. And then anytime if you run start, anytime you're changing any of these files, it'll run this whole process. And then the release prep is for production builds, where we, I don't know, delete all the temp stuff and then sort of regenerate everything. Yeah, so it's not, this isn't great, and I don't like,
Kind of
I don't
like
want
a
it to like,
predecessor to Webpack almost.
sure, yeah, definitely. It does different. I mean, like Webpack is, I don't know, you know, it's definitely a predecessor to Webpack. It could, like, you can't do the kind, like, there's a lot of things you can't do with this that you can do in Webpack. You know, it's not like a 1-2 thing, you know, like Gulp is, if you've heard of Gulp, is another task runner, and that was like the sort of direct, like the direct, you know, I don't know what the other word for that is, but you know, like a lot of people,
after Grunt.
successor, yes, exactly,
Yeah.
moved from Grunt to Gulp. Those look, you know, similar. Webpack is like a different sort of you know, paradigm of how it does, you know, the results are sort of generated files, but the way they think about it is a little different. But I don't expect this grunt stuff to hang around the site. You know, I have an issue actually in our repository for replacing it, but we haven't decided what it is yet or anything like that. So
Hey Dan, real quick, there's some friends would like to know what font you're using in your VS Code editor.
Oh man, yeah. This is Operator Mono. It's like the nerdiest version of Operator Mono, because there's Operator Mono is really nice. It costs money, but I don't know, I code for a living in like all the time, you know, so I'm okay with spending a little bit of money if it makes me like more comfortable. But the one thing it doesn't have is, let's see if I can find a good version of, the one thing it doesn't have is, I don't know what you call those things where it puts two things together. My brain is like, drop that word. Ligatures. And so there's a GitHub, I'll post it in Slack or something later, but there's a GitHub package that somebody wrote to take, so you have to have the operator mono files on your computer, so it's not like, you know, breaking anybody's rules, but then you run a command and actually add ligatures to operator mono. So that is what's going on there. And so ligature is like let me see if it'll just do it here. Yeah, so you can kind of see it's instead of like, so this is like 3, but when, you know, when things are like all together, it makes them like cool looking instead of separated characters. I don't know. That's ligatures. The color theme, I don't know if you asked that or not, is, I forget. I think it's Sublime material theme dark. So which of course I've been using since I was using Sublime all the time. So yes, were there any other questions at the moment? All right, what do I talk about next? Hosting is all Netlify. That was never really a question. I have just like Netlify is one of my favorite like tools, or I don't know what companies, whatever. Netlify is really, really awesome for hosting static and or you know, static E sites. So we have a Virtual Coffee account on Netlify, and so this is basically their pro account, but if it's an open source project and it follows like a couple regulations, they'll give you a pro account for free, a pro like team account. So we've hosted our site here. There's like a fly flying around me, sorry. So anytime we push, sorry, we got like a fruit fly attack. Anytime we push to the Virtual Coffee's GitHub to main, it sort of kicks off a build, and then we have a GitHub workflow to rebuild it every day, I think. But it basically is like 2 clicks to hook a GitHub repository up to Virtual Coffee, and if it's one that has if it's either just a plain site with no builds or a sort of simple build situation, Netlify will just kind of find it and hook it up automatically. And so all of that grunt stuff happens, you know, at build time on Netlify, and then it outputs at the static site. So the site you're looking at on the website is hosted on Netlify. They also, if we have some like forms and stuff like that, and so all those are just Netlify forms, which are really kind of really easy to put into place. And I don't know, there's some other things, cool things that Netlify does for us. And then down the line, there's even some other, like there's some fancier things that we're not making any use of, but Netlify is really cool. The other awesome thing about our Netlify setup is deploy previews. And so if we have like a, let me see if we can find a good one here. So I don't know if they'll still be open, but yeah, so Netlify is like basically for free and with no extra work. Anytime a pull request is created, it's creating a like specific, yeah, I think it's gone. Specific like previewable like URL on Netlify's site, and all of this stuff works. It like is exactly like you would think it would be, except it's just a weird URL. But this way we can preview changes on the production like server with no work at all on our side, and like I don't know, if we have contributors that are like can't get the full thing running on their local machine, or even if they can, like we don't always want it to depend on, oh, it works on my machine. And so this gives us a really nice way to just preview it automatically with 1 click from GitHub. So that is Netlify. The rest of it is like, you know, ultimately once it builds, it's just HTML and assets. And so the stuff that's happening on the server side is really simple. Yeah, what else we got? Meg, question, go.
I'm always full of questions. So
I like it.
yeah. So just to be clear, the back end is all hosted on GitHub, and you have it, the front end on Netlify, and it's just linked so that like you have, I'm guessing your main branch is the one that deploys. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yeah.
So whenever anything's pushed to main, it automatically sets off a new deploy on Netlify.
Yeah, that's how it is now. And like you can change, I mean, obviously we can set that to be however we want. That's how the Virtual Coffee site is set up right now. You can set it to, of course, manually deploy, like so that you know, one of us would have to go in and click the deploy button. You can set it up to deploy on tags, which is how I have some work stuff set up. So that gives us a little extra, somebody has to do a specific thing before it gets released. But
Yeah.
for us, it's set up like that. And there's really like it's like the source code is on GitHub, and then Netlify basically clones it and runs the command stuff on their like machines.
And this works because it's a static site. But if it was dynamic and had like a database, it would be a different setup.
Yeah, you'd have to figure out something else for that for sure. Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Netlify has what are called like serverless functions, which you can do a lot of different things with, but basically you can set up a place to talk to another server through that. But they don't have databases. If you're going to do a PHP, like a WordPress or a craft site or something like that, Netlify is not where you want to go. But for static, and when I say static, I don't mean just like always just plain, if we had like a React site or like a Next site or something that had, that talk to APIs and stuff like that, that's something we can definitely do on Netlify. But it doesn't run any server side runtime stuff per se. You can get it to act like that a little bit in certain situations. Vercel is another. It's the first time I've really, I don't know if that's how you pronounce it, but they're the creators of Next, and they have a similar sort of hosting setup, but they have some extra capabilities, some node related capabilities.
I know someone that has a site on Vercel, and I never heard of it until I got to her site. So I could, if you're interested in like checking that out, I could connect you guys if you want.
Yeah. I have plans to dig into Next a little bit, and I think they have Next JS like does by default some like server side node stuff if you tell it to, and Vercel, I'm pretty sure out of the box their hosting can like handle that. If you try to do that on Netlify, it wouldn't. The build time stuff would work, but there's no they're not like letting any backend stuff run.
So I was wondering, like you've been giving like a really good overview of this whole thing. And when I checked it out earlier, I saw that I thought what you guys put up as I think it was in the issues, was a really good idea, like to add yourself as a member as far as like a getting started contribution. And I was wondering maybe if you could like do a walkthrough just like of how you do that, because maybe not everyone, I know you all did like a very intense like Hacktoberfest, which was really cool because so many people were active with that. But there's probably other people who didn't get a chance to participate, and maybe you could just like show like how you go about adding yourself as a member here.
That's
I can jump in just for a second. I'm pretty sure that we have a video that walks everyone through that, right?
We do technically. I don't know. I don't know if it's like online yet or not. I'm not sure about that part, but
no, I can look for it, but I just want to make sure, I think that's great. And I would love to have people do that, but also I don't know how we're doing on time here, if we're okay to go past the 1 o'clock. And so I want to make sure that, you're able to cover what you need to.
Yeah, totally. Well, I think I was going to say something similar. Like, I don't think I'm going to dig super deep into how to do this, but this, like, I really thank you, Meg, for like pointing that out, because I did want to talk about it a little bit. This was sort of the other half of the main idea of the site for Hacktoberfest was to create this members page and create it in a way that we can, our members can actually add themselves, via pull requests to the site. And so that was like, this was like the big sort of drive for our first Hacktoberfest event was this. And so this issue is, I don't know really there's so many chats. I don't know where where the right place to put it is, but this issue is up on the Virtual Coffee GitHub. It's pinned at the top, and any of our members, like, this is still open. This is not like a Hacktober. This is just going to always stay open. This is not a Hacktoberfest specific thing. But the basic idea is in the source, there's a directory called member. That's what's in the data, and it's called members. And each one of these is just a JSON file with your GitHub username. And that's literally all you have to do. And then create a pull request. Yeah, so this is like one of the nice things Eleventy does, is we have a JavaScript file that that basically pulls all of the JSON, like members JSON files, and then loops through them and calls the GitHub API and grabs their sort of GitHub information profile, the public profile information for the members, and then we generate the members template from there, which is somewhere. Sorry, I'm getting my Zoom little thing is blocking me a little bit. Here we go. Yeah, and so this is like reads that data, and this is where we output it. We've had a lot of help. So since the site launched, we've had a lot of members create pull requests to add themselves, and I think it was 15 or 16, and we had maybe more than that, I'm not sure. And then we had some of our community members do a lot of work on the site during Hacktoberfest too. And so we've kind of changed this over time a little bit, but yeah, so that issue is like up there, and there's some like specific instructions as far as like how to actually do it. And as always, like we're available in Slack, and even questions on the GitHub issue for this specifically. So that's kind of like, I don't know, that's kind of the large overview. I think I hit all of the like top level notes. There's a lot of different like paths to like dig down deeper. And we have, I don't know, some amount of time. We said an hour. I don't super care personally how long this goes, but like, I guess at this point, I open it up for some more questions. If people have some specific things they'd like to know more about, or, anything in that realm, this would be good opportunity. I saw somebody say that, yeah, Fira code is similar to Operator Mono, and it's fine, I guess. Sorry, that was just my little. This is like, I mean, I don't know if everybody does this, but with like themes, and you kind of get just stuck on something that like fits your, I don't know, your brain or whatever. And then, so every time I see a new font or a new awesome theme that somebody made, I try it out and like last like 5 minutes and then go back to what I'm comfortable with. So the it's always just a personal, personal choice. I like to act snobby, but I'm not actually. So what else? Yeah, Fira code is free. I mean, I was just making a joke, but Fira code is dope. And I actually like did last for a while with that one. And I think it does have ligatures out of the box. I can't remember. What else did I not talk about on the site? I know that there was sort of a lot.
We've got a couple of questions maybe to catch up on too. Let's see here. Vanessa asked what the NJK extension was.
Yeah, so that stands for Nunjucks, which is a JavaScript templating language. And it is one of the languages that Eleventy will like use out of the box without any additional work. And so most of our templates for Virtual Coffee, the site is set up to sort of automatically do Nunjucks and Markdown. So if we just drop a Markdown file in here, it'll just work. And then Nunjucks files are sort of templates, right? And so we can create files and put just flat HTML in them. And we can also do things like includes, right? Which, well, here is just like dumping that SVG file in. the members page, you know, is, and so we can, and then we can do things like this. These are called macros in the templating world, but they're really, you know, just functions that take some stuff and then output some other stuff, right? And so, you know, we're importing those here. There's a light level of programming things that it allows you to do, you know, looping and importing and variables and stuff like that. Eleventy has a few different ones that work like this out of the box, and then the way that Eleventy handles data is actually really cool, because you can set up data in sort of a few different ways, and it provides all of that data to basically every single template or file that you want to create. So there's also, I think out of the box, Liquid is another one, and you can also just use JavaScript files. I can't remember if I, no, I thought I had one in here, but it must have been in the Hacktoberfest site. But you can even just like have a JavaScript file in here that's not a template file at all, and output something, like return something, and it'll build it that way. So Nunjucks is it's not written by Eleventy. So here's all the these are all the templating languages that Nunjucks supports out of the box. And Nunjucks is written by Mozilla, I think. This is just, can't type. Yeah. So they have their own sort of docs page, and it's not related to Eleventy at all. I mean, you know, it's a whole separate thing, you know, but Eleventy just makes use of it. And it was closest to, I'm used to Twig. I use Twig a lot, which is a templating language that I think started in PHP, but it's very similar. It's similar to like a lot of these sort of templating languages. So that's NJK, Nunjucks.
And there's a couple of questions about how to, what the process is for suggesting changes to the site, adding issues, and the decision process that goes behind that.
Yeah, so adding issues should, like, I don't know, we're always trying to improve our sort of communication, you know, from the open source land, but any sort of question or issue or possible improvement or whatever, it was like everybody should always feel free to submit, and that's just on Virtual Coffee's, you know, repository, and just the you know, issues and hit new issue. We have a couple templates, right, that Kirk set up, so thank you, Kirk. But so we have, like, you know, there's a couple different templates that you can use that will help you sort of I don't know, format things in a way that is helpful-ish. But like, we have a bug report, so like, it's like if something's broken, you know, bug report. If something's broken except just in the documentation, then here, this is like new idea, and this is just question. And any of them can be sort of these like transferred to other sections or whatever. So there's no, you know, I don't know, there's no, like, shouldn't be any worry about picking the wrong one, because we can change them. As far as how we decide, you know, how to handle like new features and stuff like that, we don't really have a super big process. Sometimes they're like, obviously, like, yes, you know, small things. Sometimes they're like, yeah, we definitely want to do that. We haven't figured out how yet, you know, and then I don't know, you know, the decision process is sort of the leadership team just sort of chats about things right now. But we haven't come across any like really big ideas that we didn't already know, you know, they hadn't already, you know, thought about it at least a little bit. So yeah, and then so if it's like a big thing, basically we want the issue there to discuss, you know. If it's a small thing, like, we're happy to do pull requests and everything like that too. So I mean, if you see a bug and you also know how to fix it, you know, you can just like jump on it. But yeah, issues is where we want to have all that stuff incoming, and we're always happy to field, you know, requests and questions and stuff like that. And yeah, Kirk just said in the chat, we're in Slack, like, we're always happy to you know, talk about any questions or whatever in Slack too, if you want to go over something before you put it down. to an issue.
But I would say always issues are a good place because everyone can see it and doesn't get lost or eaten by Slack. So, if you have a thought, like, we want to hear it and to give other people the chance to see and comment on it too.
Yes.
I missed it at the beginning because I was in a meeting for a good chunk. I was watching it on the side, but I'm assuming we deploy to Netlify, or where do we deploy to?
Yeah, Netlify.
Okay.
Yeah, we got the whole thing set up on Netlify. We got the deploy previews and everything like that. So Netlify, and we also they give us a pro account for like a pro team account for free. Since we're like open source, we have like then really their only requirement was we had to have a code of conduct and like a little Netlify, link at the bottom. And it's awesome because they're like their free accounts are really great for a personal, like for you can do a lot with Netlify's like for your personal stuff, but as soon as you start like having to collaborate with other people, you need like the team account, and that's where they start like charging for accounts or whatever, which is what you would expect. But they're really good about open source stuff. My React meetup is in the same boat. We had the same thing set up for that. So.
Yeah, I know we deploy our storybook and our docs for forum to Netlify just because we're open source as well, and I'm a big fan of Netlify. I love the deploy previews. It's like such a great feature.
Agreed. It's really cool. And it's so nice to just be able to send those links to people, decision makers and stuff like that. Non-tech people, but clients and stuff like that we use it at work too. And we just send it's just a link, and then it's just like the normal website, but it's the preview link so they can check out whatever it is, whatever change it is. It's cool. What else? We got a couple more minutes, I suppose. Anybody else want to get me rambling about something?
I had a question.
Yeah.
Of course. So, well, first, I think it's super cool that you use this Eleventy, like this accessibility first framework. Did you like have that specifically in mind? Because I'm running some web accessibility checkers on it, and it's like it looks really good. And like, did you go through and implement things? Well, I guess you said you didn't really have much time, but was that like kind of one of the goals in the back of your head as you were building it? Like you want it to be accessible as well, as well as friendly to contributions and everything like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It was I wanted it to be accessible to view and accessible to contribute to, and that was the big reason to go with Eleventy, is that sort of stuff is, it's fast and accessible by default, and so when you're working with Eleventy, you basically have to try to ruin accessibility. There's no like buttons or divs or buttons or anything like, there's none of that. And then, so you can just write some HTML, and line everything up how you want, and it'll output a very fast and very awesome site, by default. So yeah, that was a consideration. I mean, I wanted it to rank high on all that stuff out of the box. I wanted it to sort of at least output. I wanted it to be an example of a site like this that's done well, but then Grunt got involved, and so at least the output is an example of what can be done well. Yeah. So yeah, that was my Lighthouse scores keep bouncing around 100 every day. I check it. One day's 100 and one day's like 98 or something, and I don't know. But yeah, that was definitely high on my list of goals.
Cool. And do you and the team have any future goals for the site as of now?
We have some stuff. We don't have anything like specifically decided on, but we have a bunch of stuff that we're like we keep talking about. And one of our like big pushes, I don't know, big considerations for any large features we had here is to get the community involved in contributing. We still have to figure out how that looks, you know, and make some decisions about what we specifically want to do, you know, but all of our plans always are going to be like the beginning of the site was, you know, to both enable and make use of our community to help make the site better. So there's definitely going to be some cool stuff, you know, some cool features coming down the road. We will be talking about them soon, and then you know, lay out some plans and kind of figure out how we can get everybody involved in them. And yeah, like we were saying, we'd always like, we're always, decisions aside, we're always eager to hear what people want, you know, or what they would want, what they would find useful, what they'd be excited about working on, anything like that. You know, no, you're never going to bother us with a feature request, even if we end up deciding it's not a thing that we can do, you know, immediately or something like that. We always want to, you know.
Yeah, because Kirk, he just put in the chat, he wants to think about how to build our own tools for things we as virtual coffee members desire. And I know how Becca and others keep saying how things get lost in Slack. And like, I'm just thinking how, you know, with these meetups that we do and how we get such great resources out of them, and Kirk is on point with the notes every time, and the brown bags, like this would be a great place to just like dump notes and post the videos and everything.
Yeah, we've talked about that a lot.
Yeah,
for sure. I mean, it's something we've talked about, and it's I don't know, it's interesting to think through all the different you know, scenarios involved with that. But
yeah,
that sort of
Yeah,
saving the resources, the joint resources of our community is very high up on our mind.
Mhm.
Especially
Yeah,
as
that's
Slack
one of
keeps
our
growing.
primary goals always, is to support the community members, and being able to keep that information in a place that's accessible and easy to find for everyone is definitely at the top of our priority list. So, but if you have ideas, certainly feel free to message one of us, or if you have specific ideas on how to do it, you can add an issue. That would be great.
Yeah, cool. Will do.
I don't know if it was mentioned, but it might be interesting to have a blog on virtual coffee where we could feature, I'm guessing by Becca's smile that maybe that was mentioned already.
It was not mentioned, but it's been something that the whole last week I've been trying to figure out. So
Yeah, definitely high on our list as well. And we're talking, we, you know, recorded our first podcast episode on Friday. And so adding that to the site will be, you know, a similar sort of setup, but that's all that stuff is coming.
I think we need to talk to people who've done it before and be like, how did you do this? Show me. And to make it easier on ourselves. You know?
Absolutely.
So thank you so much, Dan. This is very informative and awesome. And thank you for answering all of my questions, all my million bajillion questions.
Oh, I was glad to. Yeah. Thank you everybody for coming. I don't know, Becca, do you want to like do a little outro?
sure.
You gotta sing.
Thanks. Thank you everybody for coming. Thanks, Dan, for doing this and for setting up the site. Like, this was really great and nice to be able to hear the thought process that went into it. And thanks everyone for the questions and the comments. And like I said, we always want to have community feedback. So let us know what you think. And we're working on ways to make it easier for you to, you know, let us know what your ideas are. And of course, thank you to Drew for the logo that is so awesome and that we love. If you are new to Virtual Coffee and you've not been here before, you can check out our events on the events page of virtualcoffee.io. We have meetups Tuesday mornings at 9 a.m. Eastern and Thursday afternoons, 12 p.m. Eastern. So always feel free to jump into that. And then I think that's it. So hopefully I'll see you all sometime later this week. And I look forward to hearing what you are interested in seeing next.
Thank you, everybody. Stop recording.